Hello and welcome to Guild Wars Players News, the podcast where we take a look at Guild Wars game series news and talk about content on our site, Guild Wars Players. I'm Sithrith, and today we have Draculetta.
Hey, everybody.
And we have Atharos.
Oh, hi.
So this episode is going to maybe be a little bit shorter because we usually record on Thursdays, which works pretty well because usually ArenaNet releases new information Thursday morning, so we, have stuff to talk about. Unfortunately, Draculetta is leaving us this weekend, so we are recording a day early, which means we don't have quite as much news as we normally have to talk about. But Drac, why don't you tell us about where you're going?
I am going to Gen Con,
Ooh.
which is billed as the best 4 days in gaming, so...
Oh my.
It's going to be tabletops, RPGs, card games, dice games, any kind of games will be played at Gen Con. So it's going to be pretty amazing. It's always a good time.
Yes, as we know, you have, in the past, very good experiences at Gen Con.
Yes, I have.
Let's not go any further than that, please.
Yes, I was not planning on it.
See episode, whatever the number was.
12.
Okay,
12.
There you go. See episode 12 if you want to know the Gen Con.
Oh, boy.
So, yes.
Okay. So, this week we did get an update on the 28th, and it came with a little bit of updates, and it kind of bugged out for a lot of people the first day. It should be fixed now. Some people logged in immediately after the patch and reported that their collections were missing, that they were missing achievement points, that their trait points were all gone, stuff like that. So that wasn't great, but it was just a graphical glitch, like a display issue kind of thing. It's fixed now, so you don't have to worry about logging in and missing stuff or whatever. The big thing that they added for this update was that they added a Living World Season 1 recap chapter that allows you to go back to a NPC in Lion's Arch and watch a cutscene that kind of gives you a little bit of information about what happened in Living Story Season 1, and then you can also talk to the NPC afterwards to hear about the story behind the people that you interact with in Living World Season 2. So, like, Bram and Rox and Timey and all of them. So, I went and I did it. I kind of panicked at first because I ran up to the little green star thing to start the cutscene, and then my game crashed, and when I logged back in, it said I'd completed the chapter, and I couldn't figure out how to watch it again. But if you talk to the NPC, you can watch the cutscene as many times as you want, apparently.
She also gives you some more information on the characters, or at least a few of them.
Yeah, I just said that.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Somebody is playing Guild Wars 2 while we are talking about playing Guild Wars 2.
I'm just dedicated.
Yeah, just dedicated.
What was the reasoning, you think, for adding this in? I mean, was there like a big outcrying?
Well, I know we've on the show before have talked about how we wish that there was some kind of just cutscene chapter thing that gave a bit more information.
Yeah, something at least.
Right.
Yeah. So we've talked about that before. I'm sure other people have also requested something similar just to give a bit of background before you start Season 2. Because if you don't have that, you kind of just go into Season 2 like, who are these people? Why?
How do they know?
Yeah.
Why did they call me boss? Like, that kind of stuff.
I mean, it's not a bad thing that they added. It was kind of random, I thought. When I
the
read that, I
timing
thought, that's kind of weird, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's good that they're tying up loose ends like this before, presumably, we go into Season 3, which I assume Heart of Thorns will start.
Yeah.
So that's good. I feel like the cutscene could have been longer, actually, and maybe gone a bit more in depth, because it's kind of vague and just like, oh, Scarlet was bad, went crazy, looked at the Eternal Alchemy.
Yeah, they didn't really explain, because I know from having read the wiki and stuff, but, they don't really explain how or why she looked into the Eternal Alchemy and stuff, how any of that really happened. And there's still really, aside from going out of your way, looking in the wiki and stuff, finding out the details, really, which I guess is still kind of on. This cutscene thing is the absolute bare minimum to get the general grasp of it without asking too many questions.
Right.
Which is fine, but personally, I still would have liked a way to somehow replay it or play through it, just some sort of black and white. Here's what actually happened thing.
Right.
But I guess at this point, it might be too much to ask.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely better than previously, where there was nothing. So there's that. There's also been some graphic options added with this latest update. If you have a higher end machine, you can add some extra anti-aliasing options or some ambient occlusion and light adaptation, stuff like that. And of course, there are some balance and bug fixes that they've done for various characters. They've also done a bit of personal story tweaking because, they just redid that. And as Screenager points out in the chat, yeah, it is. You have to give it some credit. It's better than what we had when Season 2 launched. The Living World Atlas was just horrendous. I don't actually even know what the Living World Atlas is, unless you just mean like the story journal. But yeah, it was just before this. It's just, yep, here's the story. It picks off where you left off, except that if you weren't there, you don't know what is happening at all and why these people are calling you boss and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which isn't great. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
Also, this week they've previously set up the two-step authentication, which is where you use either an app or you set up a desktop application and you set up with your phone to basically make it so that your account is more secure using a second way to authenticate besides just your password, and to encourage people to further secure their accounts and set up this two-step authentication. They have started giving away a mini Mystic Dragon if you do set up two-step authentication. Previously, the mini Mystic Dragon was only available to people who played on the Chinese server and the Chinese version of the game. But now they are everywhere on the North American and the European servers, and just flying noodles everywhere. They look like big noodles flying everywhere.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Everybody is using them.
Huh.
Which hopefully gets old soon.
Well, I mean, it's like you were saying earlier today when we were playing that it'll be like the black wings and the white wings. Like, at first it's just everybody has them and everybody's wearing them, but then after a couple weeks, maybe a couple people will still use them.
Yeah.
I'm personally using it on my warrior. Yeah, they are. I expected it to be like a little tiny snake kind of sized dragon thing, but it's quite big. It's very big. I have it on my warrior because it matches his color scheme, but other than that, I'm not using my noodle dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Lion's Arch is basically one big pasta bowl at the moment.
Yeah. We saw some of that in the PvP lobby too.
Oh yeah, PvP lobby, definitely just a bowl of spaghetti. It's ridiculous. But yeah, we don't really have any sales this week either, do we, Drac?
We do not. I don't know what their deal is with not putting anything on sale. I guess they're just too busy with all this other stuff they're doing.
I guess.
Flying noodles included.
Flying noodles. They're too busy making flying noodles. One thing they did do was they re-added the Dream Thistle weapon skin set to the Black Lion Weapon Specialist Merchant. You can get those for 3 Black Lion tickets now. So the prices have dropped dramatically on the trading post. Whereas the staff used to be like 1,300 some gold, they are now like 300 some gold. So a bit more reasonable. A little bit. So that's about it for news. Like I said, we don't really have a whole lot to talk about today because we are doing this a little bit earlier. So sorry about that. We'll definitely have more to talk about next week. So we'll move on to Guild Wars Players news. This week I put up a poll on the site asking people what their favorite main city is in Guild Wars 2. We didn't get a whole lot of responses just because, again, having the podcast earlier than usual. We got 10 votes. 4 people, so 40%, said that they prefer Radasum. 2 people prefer Lion's Arch. 2 people prefer the Grove. 1 person likes Divinity's Reach, and 1 person liked the Black Citadel. And there's no love for Holbrook. Although we did get a tweet saying that they really like Holbrook, they like the look of it, but when it comes to actually using it, it's not as efficient because everything's very spread out.
Really not.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree. It does look really cool, like with all the ice statues and the constellations in the sky. Everything looks really cool. Just not very efficient, though, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually find, like we've been using the Grove for a long time just because the Bank and the Black Lion people, like pretty much everything you really need is right by each other.
Mm-hmm.
We've been using it to a point where we can recite the NPC conversations off by heart, but...
Yeah, let's not get started, because if we do, we will recite entire NPC conversations.
And they are not nearly as witty and entertaining the 50th time around.
No. I feel like we've maybe gone a little crazy listening to those conversations so many times.
Yeah. Radasum is, I'd say it's actually pretty equivalent. The distance would probably be about the same. Kind of get into some of the crafting areas, like certain parts are sort of on different levels, so I guess that could be annoying. But then it's the same for the Grove, really. I think the main difference is just, do you like Asura? I don't, so I don't like it as much.
Right. Yeah, I guess it depends on what race you don't like is where you won't go. Do you have a preference, Drac, for your like banking and trading posting and all that?
I usually just go to Lion's Arch.
Yeah.
That's just because most of that's it's kind of like the Grove, because Lion's Arch, most of that stuff is really close together, so it's easy to get to. But as the look of the city, I guess I used to like Lion's Arch, but since
not a fan anymore.
Now it's the theme park, not so much. But I still go there because all the stuff is fairly close together.
So what would you say is your favorite in terms of aesthetic now?
That's a good question. Probably Radasum, and I like Holbrook.
Holbrook is very, very nice looking.
I like for
Radasum
the look
as well.
of Holbrook. I like Holbrook.
Right.
But
yeah,
as far as using vendors and getting around,
it's terrible.
I hate getting around in Holbrook since it's multi-leveled and you never know. Okay, do I have to go up to get to that guy, or do I got to go down to the next level? It's like
right.
I think Divinity's Reach is probably my least favorite. It's like the most grand and stuff, but for one thing, it's human, so they're not very interesting. And that's probably the most spread out of all the cities, to be honest. Like, it's just huge.
I like the different neighborhoods in Divinity's Reach. Like, they look cool if you go around, and like there's some details in Divinity's Reach that I think are pretty interesting, but
right, yeah, there is.
It's not my favorite.
Yeah, it's just after you have to go there so many times to do map completion or just general questing or anything like that, it gets bad.
So this week we also had Kelsandra Chapter 11 go up, and it's definitely a shorter chapter this week than usual, but it is good as usual, so definitely go read it. Again, I don't want to get into it because spoilers and all, but you should definitely go and start reading from the beginning. It's a very good series. This week I also posted my Making Gold in the Silver Wastes guide. It gives a rundown of how to make gold in the Silver Wastes, obviously using the Foothold and Vinewrath event cycle, and also chest trains. It is kind of more for people who don't go to the Silver Wastes as much. Like, obviously, if you spend a lot of time in Silver Wastes, you probably figure out by now how to make gold. But for people who maybe have only just recently hit level 80 and need some guidance in what to do there and how to make gold from it, this is the guide for you. So go check it out, and if you have any alternative suggestions, we'd also love to hear it. You can put it in the comments on that guide or on this podcast or whatever. So, Drek, what are the sounds of Tyria this week?
We are looking at Guild Wars Factions and the track entitled Jade Sea. And of course, this kind of goes along with the announcement that was last week with Shiro being the new Revenant thing. The Jade Sea, of course, turned to the Jade Sea when, of course, Shiro died and unleashed the Jade Wind. And I think previously I was going to use the Jade Wind track, but I think I already spotlighted that at one point. So
I feel like you'd have
a couple
already.
Weeks ago, yeah. So I had to go the Jade Sea this time, but it's another one of those. It's kind of it's a different type track for any Guild Wars soundtrack, I think, because it's very like foreboding. It's got a lot of drums in it, and it's got like a lot of just like really low beats. And it kind of builds up, so you can kind of tell something's going to happen, but you're not sure what.
Right.
So it's not one of the... And it doesn't really... I think if you would hear this track in the game anywhere else other than the Jade Sea, it wouldn't make sense. But if you're in the Jade Sea zone and you're running around and you hear this track, it kind of fits the landscape, and it makes sense when you hear it and you're playing. Cool. It's not one of those that, you could just hear somewhere else and say, oh yeah, this is a Guild Wars song. It's like...
Right, it's very specific
it is,
to that area.
Yep.
Cool. So this week, the weekly community outfit is of Arianel, the Sylvari Elementalist, and this was sent in by Silver Stargazer, who says, I was looking through my screenshots last night and found one from mid-2014 in one of the most beautiful Tyrian locations, in my opinion, the Cavern of the Shining Lights in Drytop. And this is where there's like all those ley line magic bits everywhere. So it is really cool looking. And they continue, I felt like sharing this with you. The character's name is Ariana, and she is a Sylvari Elementalist. I recently changed her gear to the Luminescent set, but I've always liked this original look, and I'm glad that I have this memento. She is wearing the Phoenix armor set with Conjurer Mantle and the Wraith Mask, which is kind of makes your eyes glow kind of bluish white. I picked this headgear to convey her preference for air magic in a manner evocative of Storm, the Marvel character. So her armor is all kind of white and purple, and she is a green Sylvari, so it looks pretty cool. And yeah, so go check it out. She has the Princess Wand equipped, which is always a favorite of mine. Gotta love the Princess Wand. Then this week, for the lore book, which is where we take a look at a place, character, race, or artifact, I'm going to talk about the Toxic Alliance and the Molten Alliance, because we are kind of, we just got this thing about Season 1, and like we said, we weren't 100% pleased with how in-depth it went. Definitely pleased it exists. Wish there was a little bit more. So, the Toxic Alliance and the Molten Alliance were alliances forged by Scarlet Briar to further her schemes during Living Story Season 1, where she was trying to find ley lines, basically. And the Molten Alliance was an alliance between the Flame Legion, Char, and the Dredge. And she allied these two so that she could use their combined magic and technological abilities so that they'd kind of, create inventions and stuff with these two different, like with the Dredge's technological prowess and the Flame Legion's magical prowess. She could use what they made. However, the Flame Legion were planning to just use the Dredge for the technology and then enslave them, because Flame Legion are jerks that way. And you can still fight the Molten Alliance in the Fractals of the Mists. Now, the Toxic Alliance was a alliance between the Nightmare Court, or part of the Nightmare Court, and the Crate. And they basically created this huge tower in Kessex Hills called the Tower of Nightmares, and there was a plant seed growing in it, and this whole tower gave off a very, very powerful toxin so that nobody could get through to it. You can still see the remnants of this tower in Kessex Hills, and there's a heart there where you have to use these air purifiers. That's kind of part of what that whole thing was. They had to use air purifiers to get through this powerful toxin to take down the Nightmare Tower. And yeah, so apparently Marjorie Delacroix was the one who helped create this antitoxin. So, yeah, that is the Toxic Alliance and Molten Alliance. Those were two of the kind of groups that Scarlet used to, further her evil scheming plans of destroying stuff.
Yeah, I'm actually by what was left, I suppose, of the Tower of Nightmares right now. It's a lot less grand, I imagine, than it used to be.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
That's
we
one of the things I would have liked to have seen some way, because it sounds like it would be a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, we can still kind of see bits of that, like in Kessex Hills, there's the ruins of the tower, and then there's those events that go on every so often with the Toxic Alliance, where like kind of mini plant towers go up, and there's a whole bunch of Crate and Nightmare Courtiers running around. But yeah, it's kind of weird now because there's all I remember we got a question a few episodes back, someone asking like what the Toxic Alliance was and why are they wanting to kill me or whatever.
They don't really explain them in game.
No, it's just kind of there now, and it's kind of awkward. But yeah, that's that. Molten Alliance is definitely still a thing in Fractals. That's a pretty interesting fight. Yeah. So Tharos, what did you do this week in game?
As of right now, I've got my my Guardian, my Child Guardian, to level 30. So still making progress with him. I'm currently going through.
You're just so dedicated.
Yeah. I'm planning to do map completion on him too. I'm about 26% of the way done. So.
Jeez, you're crazy.
Yeah, I'm liking him so far. It's been kind of different going through with the Guardian. I mean, they do ridiculous damage with the great sword. I've
Oh, and I
remembered
imagine
that the last time I rolled one.
it's very different because your other two level 80s are light armor magic user people.
Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to roll one, just to have a bit of different flavor. And that's why I'm also reluctant to use the scepter, like it has been recommended to me, because it feels like just going back to using a magey type again.
Right.
I mean, maybe it doesn't actually end up feeling like that, but that's what I'm like kind of concerned with.
Yeah, it's reasonable. You want something different.
Mm-hmm. I've also been, as of just now, starting to learn how to use combos, because I'd had no idea that you can actually combo them with yourself, like with your own abilities.
Yep.
It's probably been explained multiple times to me, but I also am not good at learning, so there we go. I'm kind of trying to implement those in my fighting a bit more.
It's only
Seems to be
taking you 3
working out.
characters to figure it out.
Yep,
It's all right.
2 of them, 100% map completion too, so it's a lot of fighting.
You're insane. I'm sorry. You're just completely insane.
Yeah, map completion is rough.
Well, I'll disagree.
I guess
Okay.
in most MMOs, everybody has to have something they like to do, and apparently that's your thing.
Like,
I think
map
5 million hours of PvP.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's really funny because, I was walking you through the Silver Waste stuff and you were saying how boring you felt that was. But that's how I feel about world completion. Like, I'd much rather just grind Vine Wrath over and over again than map completion.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I liked making money in Vine Wrath because that's also something I was doing.
Right.
I did a few runs of Vine Wrath and the chest runs with you, and those were profitable.
Mm-hmm.
Not something I really enjoy doing on my own just because they're just not that fun for me.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if I want to make money, that's how I'm going to do it now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely more fun if you have someone to like talk to while you do it because I mean, obviously, but that's the same for world completion, really. But Drac, what did you do this week?
I did a little bit of the Winter's Day in July in Guild Wars 1.
That's so funny. Why don't we have Winter's Day in July in Guild Wars 2?
I don't know. I'm not sure why they don't do it in 2. Because they always have done it in 1 for as long as I can remember. Winter's Day always comes back. It's usually for about a week or 2. Yeah. And it's not the full Winter's Day, but it's most of the Winter's Day events. And then I patched Guild Wars 2 and went in to go to play and promptly crashed. So I tried to load in again and promptly crashed yet again.
Ouch.
So I tried to load a different character and promptly crashed again. So at this point, I can't play. I haven't tried today yet, though, so I don't know if maybe...
Yeah, they just apparently, just now, put in a new build.
Okay.
Okay, I'll have to update, and maybe that'll fix my problem, but...
I feel like there's always, 3 or 4 days after a patch before they even out all the little bugs like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I got to the character select, I selected my character, it started to load, crashed to desktop. So yeah, it's really weird. And I've usually never, sometimes I've had problems with it being really slow to load in after a patch, and then sometimes it takes me forever to actually patch in general. Right. But I've never actually had a crashing issue on a patch.
Yeah, that's unusual. Yeah, I've had connection issues. Just
right. Yeah,
those are always prevalent. But I don't. Although, like I said, when I went to do the cutscene, my game just crashed immediately. So something weird is going on with this recent update. But it sounds like you're in good company. Somebody in the chat named Evil Pine Leaf, who I am assuming is DJ Pimp Daddy, just said that they went to log into the game for the first time after 2 months out of game and had to authenticate via SMS. However, their iPhone has been busted, so they have to submit a support ticket. So that's unfortunate. Lots of game-related logging in issues going around.
So that is pretty much all that I did. I actually made time. I set aside time to play this week even.
Nice.
And it eluded
but then
me.
Not nice.
That's right. But then no. Hopefully the new build will fix my issue where I can.
Hopefully.
If it still does it, I'll just submit a support ticket and work with support and see if we can't figure out what's going on, because nothing changed on my end, so it's apparently something with the patch.
Yeah, I mean, in my interactions with support, they're pretty helpful, so...
Yeah, I've never had to deal with them in Guild Wars 2, but in Guild Wars 1, I had to deal with them a couple times, and if it's any indication of how they were there, it shouldn't be a problem, because they were super, super nice, so... So, what have you been up to this week, Sitha?
Well, I finally finished world completion.
Yay!
Thalros and Sarah kind of dragged me kicking and screaming through that, because I don't like world completion. We finished Timberline Falls and Cursed Shore, and I finally did it. I got map completion. So I have the Gift of Mastery now. I have the Gift of Twilight. I only need like 100-ish or less of a couple of the tier 6 materials. I've completed, 3 stacks of tier 6 materials that I need for Twilight.
Oh, wow.
So and then I just need like 100 or less of all the other ones. So yeah, all I need now is those tier 6 crafting materials and just a little tiny thing, just a little precursor named Dusk that's just 1,300 gold.
That's crazy.
So you just take that out of your pocket.
Yeah. Like
Go through your piggy bank.
Yeah, I've totally not been spending my gold in game on skins or armor for my alts. Certainly
you would probably
not.
have enough by now if you hadn't.
I probably would, but so here's the thing. Somebody on Tumblr this week posted a warrior build that's all condition damage and using the longbow on the warrior. And basically the idea is to set up maximum amount of burning damage on the warrior. And I was like, that sounds fun. I'm going to do that. So I went out and I bought an entire new armor set and new runes and sigils, and I spent 40 gold on a longbow. And it's an amazing build. It's an amazing build. I can do between 1,000 to 3,000 burn damage per second. So it's pretty great. I used it in Silver Wastes a lot, and that was really good. And then today I was trying it in PvP, and it's also pretty good. So, yeah, it's pretty good. But yeah, besides that, I've not done a whole lot, just the world completion, because that took a while, and lots of Vine Wrath and Silver Waste, trying to earn money so I can spend money. It's
almost like real life, isn't it?
It is almost like real life. Earning money just to spend it all immediately.
Yep.
Yes.
Hey, look, I have this money. Oh, wait, no, I don't anymore.
Now I have no money.
But I have this cool thing. But yet there's this other cool thing that just came out that's better than the cool thing I just got.
Exactly. I read on Tumblr somebody had finally saved up all the gold to buy the 1,300 gold Dream Thistle staff, and then the next day they added Dream Thistle's weapons to the Black Line ticket thing. And so they basically wasted 1,000 gold.
Oh, I'm hoping they can get a refund on that.
I doubt it, because it was just trading post stuff that they wanted.
That's true, yeah.
And reselling isn't going to work now, because they're going to get like half, if that, probably.
Right, exactly.
The value's going to drop.
That poor person.
You know you're going to be that person eventually.
Eventually. My heart feels for them, because I know one day that something like that will happen to me. I will buy Dusk, and then suddenly Dusk will start dropping from the sky for everyone, and it'll be like 100 gold or something, and I will just cry. Anyway, we don't have any donations this week, but we would love your support. You can help support Guild Wars players by going to our donation page, and you can support the Players Alliance Network on Patreon. You can find rewards there, like getting a mention on the show, or you can even come on and be a guest for the show. And you can contact us by emailing us at podcast@guildwarsplayers.com, or you can send us an ask to our Tumblr at guildwarsplayers.tumblr.com. And, of course, we're on Twitter. The Players Alliance Network is at Players Ally. Our site is at GWPlayers. I'm at Sithrith. Drac is at Draculetta_72, and Ethelros is at Ethelros. We also have a Facebook page. You can find us, obviously, at Guild Wars Players. And, we post stuff to the Facebook page. Go check that out. And you can also, of course, find us in-game. I'm Sithrith.6741. There's Draculetta.7410, and there's Thalros.3164. The Players Alliance has a whole bunch of live shows. Mondays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern is DDO Players News. Usually Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern is Guild Wars Players News. Next week we will be back to our regular time. And Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern is Lotro Players News. You can go to all of these live shows by going to guildwarsplayers.com/live. There's a link there to our chat room, so you should go check out all of our shows. Thank you all very much for listening, and this is Sithrith reminding you to look before you leap.